I want you to imagine for a minute that the musical staff is not a series of lines and spaces, but actually a checkerboard. So we have a checker piece that can move side to side or front to back, and if it moves by one space, it goes from a black square to a white square. But if it jumps over a square, it goes from a white square to a white square, or a black square to a black square. And this, for me, is helpful to understand how the musical staff works. If we have a note on a particular line, for instance, if it moves to the next key on the keyboard, it's going to go from a line to a space. Or if it's going to skip a note on the keyboard, it'll go from line to line. Or if we started out with a space note, if it moved to the next note on the keyboard, it's going to go from that space to a line. Or it's going to go from space to space if it's going to skip over a note. This week's piece, called Skipping, is all about that skipping from line to line or space to space. Virtually all of the movement of the notes in this piece are going from line note to line note or from space note to space note. Starting in measure 1, I want to introduce you to the idea of blocking. This is a method of learning how to identify patterns by taking all of the notes in a specific part of the music, such as the first measure, and playing them all at the same time instead of one by one. If you block all of the notes in the first measure, you'll notice on the keyboard that you've played alternating keys. If you look at the notes in the music going from measure 1 to measure 2, you'll notice that you're going from all space notes to all line notes. And that on the keyboard, this is going to mean going from all of those alternating notes to shifting down to a new set of alternating notes. One of the difficulties of this kind of a piece is the key signature. The key signature in this case is F major, and it's shown by the B flat at the very beginning of every line of music. Since I didn't want the key signature to be an issue for learning this piece, I went ahead and put in the accidentals in front of every note that needs to be a black note in this piece. As you continue to block the notes of this piece by reading all of the notes in a particular measure and then playing those notes all at the same time on the keyboard, I want you to notice all of the different ways that skipping can feel. It's one thing to feel a skip going from a white note to a white note, but it's another one to feel a skip going from a white note to a black note, or a black note to a white note, or a black note to a black note. You'll notice that the beginning of the piece feels pretty predictable. Measures 9 to 12 are a totally different story. There are lots of accidentals here. Not only are there flats like you've been experiencing up to this point in the song, but there are also sharps near the end. And there's even a C flat, which means that you're playing a flat note, but it's actually still a white note, and that is strange at first for some people. But even though it may be difficult at first to read these notes and to wrap your fingers around them, I hope that you'll agree with me as I was writing the piece that the colors that these chords produce is worth it. Finishing up the preparation of this piece, notice the beginning expression mark that says happily, and notice the pedal markings, and notice the dynamic. The overall mood should be quiet and kind of dreamy.